Hello, actor Matt Williams again in my not so Hollywood costume shop. Um, this is kind of like a first. I wanted to make a public outrage for me being somebody being indignant towards me in person. But more of this is kind of like a bragging on my daughter, who's always teaching me to be a better person. You saw this. That's in a different story. How that happened is a different story. But I had just recently went to a emergency room in my hometown just to have clean bandages put on and rewrap this. Clean the wound up a little bit and rewrap it. Simple process. After getting admitted into the cubicle in the emergency room for that process, waited 30 minutes. It's an emergency room. They're busy. I understand that. And then the first nurse comes in to get everything on stenography about confirming that I'm, the same person that registered me to admittance in the entrance. All the paperwork they have to go through, repeat the same questions, name, age, ID, all that. And all that process, and explaining to her what happened. Of course, we had a little laugh about it, because it is kind of a funny story. And, how this happened, and working in movies and what have you. But she was all, good about that. And she left. An hour later, Dr. Joe Mayer opens the curtain, looks at me sitting on the bed in the room, the examination room, looks at me and says, "Are you homeless?" That was his first question. That should not have been his first question. That was his first question. And I said, no. And I was not going to dignify him that I am an actor. And also I have a social media called Homeless Matt. But I was not going to dignify him with that explanation. He already profiled me and showing his prejudice. So he says, uncross your legs on the table. Lay them out flat. I know he was intentionally looking for needle marks in between my toes, and he was doing the dexterity test on my legs and thighs to see if I had any kind of addicted problems, and examined me thoroughly everywhere except for this. Just needed to change bandages, get it cleaned up, change bandages, and rewrap it. Simple process. And in his questioning, he asked what happened and where I got treated at. And that was in another town way out in central Texas where the first emergency took care of this process several days ago. So the bandages need changing. That was my concern, so I don't get an infection. And so, so he continued questioning, okay, did they give you pain medication? Did they give you a prescription? I said, no. I would refuse it anyway. Most I ever take is Tylenol. So, no, I had no interest in pain medication. I was not interested in getting pain medication at this emergency room. And, that was not my intention. I just wanted clean bandages and a rewrap. And so my indignation of being profiled and prejudiced against made me very angry. So he leaves, Another hour later, before two nurses come in to change my bandage, and I had to continually say, let's be gentle, because the little pinky was almost ripped off my hand. Just a little bit more gently. Let's do that. Let's not cause this person pain. And I would expect better from nurses. I don't have their names. But the place is the Longview Regional Emergency Room in Longview on Loop 281. Dr. Joe Mayer, I do know, he refused, he never did come back in. I understand. Yeah, nurses can do this. But their rough handling of me was unethical. So anyway, I am in better spirit about it because explaining the situation to my daughter, who is a better person than me, has a kinder heart, more compassionate. She goes, well, Daddy, you know how people are. Unfortunately, people are. And in reality, she's right. We all are, we are judgmental. We, in a knee-jerk reaction, and then the better person in us takes over and takes control and then shows a compassion to certain individuals or whatever. But, first instinct is we have that judgmental. But people like my daughter, that is fleeting and a blink of an eye, and her natural compassionate instinct, the better part of her, takes over on all things in considering other people. She's teaching me to be a better person. Thank you. I love you, Julia. It's just wanted to say that. This is actor Matt Williams as Homeless Matt. And know this, I do love you. And Joe, I love you. You two little nurses, I do love you. I'm just saying this for do better next time. I love you. Everybody around you loves you. And God loves you.